Welcome to the S&D 50 Final 2025 ratings. For those who are new, this is a show that performance rates all 136 college football teams every single week throughout the season, based on on-field performance alone. Spencer, welcome in. How are you?
I'm doing well, Drew. Just finished watching an incredible cap to the season in a national title matchup between Indiana and Miami. It does not get better than that. I'm drinking ginger ale to celebrate tonight, mixing it up a little bit.
Jacob, welcome in. Your Indiana Hoosiers are champions.
Can you believe that?
No,
Can you
I
believe
can't.
that?
No, I can't believe it.
I love the picture that's circling around from 2021 when Indiana Stadium was just empty in a regular season game. And now look at them pack the arena, making it hard for Carson Beck to hear the calls coming in from the sidelines. What a job by Kurt Signetti.
Thank you to all of our subscribers. We love all of you. If you're new here, subscribe if you want hyper-focused, bias-free college football content all year long. We'd love to have you. Let's get right into it. The final 50. We've been tracking this all year. We've run the model. The national championship has just concluded minutes ago. At number 50, the Minnesota Golden Gophers crack the 50 with a win against New Mexico in overtime in the Rate Bowl.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the better bowl games. We've already talked about it. Won't go into it too much, but cool to see what PJ Fleck is doing. He's unbeatable in bowls, man.
At number 49, Jacob, I'm sorry you have to see this. Northwestern back in the S&D 50 to stay for the 2025 season, up 19 spots with a dominant win against Central Michigan. At number 48, Kansas State drops 12 spots for opting out of their bowl game. Spencer, how can that be?
Well, this model is all about data points. And during the regular season, you have 12 data points. And if you earn the right to get another data point through a conference championship game or a bowl game, then we respect that. We add it in. You might get 13 or 14, or if you're Indiana or, Duke, it seems like you might get 16 data points. But if you choose to opt out of a bowl, that is forfeiting a possible data point. And if we didn't take any action in the model to reflect that there should have been a data point there that the teams voluntarily opted out of as an entire team, then Kansas State, Iowa State, Notre Dame would get credit relative to their peers for sitting out bowls. So instead, we made some adjustments to the model. They all received a negative adjustment as if they were an average bowl game loser.
At number 47, down 14 spots, we have Arizona State in a nail-biter loss to none other than the Duke Blue Devils.
It's the season that could have been a lot of hype coming into the season, coming off of last year's playoff appearance. But with Sam Leavitt going down, it just, they held it together better than I thought they would with Jeff Sims. But obviously 8-5 isn't going to get you anywhere close to a playoff appearance. They choke that one away against Duke. Now they lose Sam Leavitt. They got some patchwork jobs to do moving forward, but they keep their head coach, which might be the most important thing that has happened to this team.
At number 46, Clemson. They fall 9 spots in their loss to Penn State, but making the final 50 is an accomplishment for what a hard season it's been for Clemson.
Spencer, say what you want to say, but the S&D thinks Clemson is the most dangerous 7-6 team out there.
You got to keep in mind the trends, man. Northwestern played Clemson today. I would take Northwestern.
At number 45, up 3 spots, we have Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech in the AP poll and college football playoff ranks to end the season were 24-22. The S&D 50 has Georgia Tech at number 45 to end the year. They lose the People's National Championship to BYU 25-21.
Yeah, and you'll see despite losing, they actually get points. They led for most of that game. BYU had to come back to win it. Georgia Tech played really well. They moved up in our 50 in part because teams above them lost, but in part because they led that game. it was a comeback for BYU, and that's why they actually had some points added to their rating despite the loss.
Georgia Tech is the least dangerous 9-4 team out there.
Correct. At number 44, we have Pitt. They fall 14 spots with a loss to East Carolina, and the model does not account for players sitting out, opting out of bowl games. So this loss, if the model knew what East Carolina really brought to the table, would even punish Pitt further.
Yeah, if we had done honorable mentions this week, East Carolina definitely would have been mine. They ended up just outside the 50. Their final ranking,
51.
Mm-hmm.
They are my honorable mention as well. Pitt has a lot to look forward to with Mason Heinchel coming back for his sophomore season. At number 43, back in the S&D 50 for the final week, Washington State up 13 spots. They get a French fry bath in Boise against Utah State.
Completely dominated that game, and Spencer made an interesting statement a few weeks back when talking about Washington State that I've been thinking about, and I think it's going to play true. Washington State is going to become the new Boise State. They have the P5 experience there in the program. They've just brought in Kirby Moore. He's putting together a stellar staff. They're getting some good transfers coming in. They dominated Utah State in this bowl game. This is going to be fun and interesting to see what they do in the new Pac-12.
At number 42, Tennessee, down 17 spots with a loss to Illinois. Walk-off field goal in the Liberty Bibberty Music City Bowl in Nashville.
And Joey Aguilar not able to break Peyton Manning's passing record. Falls just shy.
It's one of those quirky things we keep very close tabs on this show.
At 41, up 18 spots. Back in the S&D 50 for the final time, a team we only scratch our heads about. The model really likes UTSA. They dominate a depleted and opted out FIU team 57-20.
Yeah, and the reason you see them here is because of that win. I mean, essentially the model saw two teams that were rated very similar to each other. And
Sicko Bowl of the week.
The model said this should be a very competitive game. It was not. Just a complete blowout. In G5 terms, this was the equivalent of Oregon blowing out Texas Tech or of Indiana blowing out Oregon. The model does not take into consideration opt-outs because this is an on-field performance-based model. We choose not to have a variable for all of the off-the-field things that happen.
At number 40, down 9 spots, South Florida finishes the year with a loss to Old Dominion 24-10. This was also a Sickle Bowl of the week that Old Dominion won with a backup. I'm excited to see what South Florida does next year with Ohio State's offensive coordinator.
Yeah, especially they gained a lot of notoriety this year from that early win against Boise State that I think surprised everyone. Boise State on the heels of a playoff appearance and then beating Florida. Didn't pan out as much as they would have liked probably, but still made a name for themselves where before they'd only been making splashes this year, they made waves. We'll see what they can do with it next year.
At number 39, down 11 spots due to opting out of bowl season, Iowa State ends the year 8-4.
Yeah, and they ate essentially the full impact of that adjustment as if they had lost like an average team lost an average game.
Even if Iowa State accepted a bowl bid, would they have been able to fill the team to play in it?
They all went to Penn State. Who knows?
Yes. They had a mass exodus when Matt Campbell decided to go to Penn State. This is going to be a completely different team that we're going to see in Ames, Iowa next year. I'm excited to see what Jimmy Rogers puts out on the field.
At number 38, down 16 spots, Arizona finishes 9-4 with a loss to SMU.
One of the surprises of the bowl season, Brett Brennan's been doing a slow build there in Arizona. It was a disappointing end, but honestly, a strong season for them as Wildcats. Another sleeper team in the Big 12 that might make some noise moving forward.
At number 37, down 10 spots, Missouri finishes 8-5. They lose to Virginia in the Tax Slayer Bowl.
The model was really high on Missouri all year, despite the fact that it didn't seem like they were putting together the kind of on-field performance you would expect from a team rated like they were. So this feels like a good finishing spot for Missouri. Like a good team, decent wins, some decent losses, and a decent spot to finish the year.
Under construction until 2026.
Always playing in their home state.
At number 36, back in the S&D 50, Wake Forest finishes the year with a win against Mississippi State. Welcome, Wake Forest, and you are welcome for your mayonnaise bath, Jake Dickert.
I knew you were going to bring that up. Ooh.
You have to. That was the most exciting thing that happened this bowl season. 5 gallons of mayonnaise on him, his wife, and his 2 sons. But Wake Forest, in all seriousness, was a very dangerous team this year. At number 35, Spencer's Louisville Cardinals finished 9-4. They beat an opted-out Toledo team 27-22, but they get the win and a 202 rating point boost to boot.
I had to point out the opt-outs. I'm pointing out that they won.
They did. They sure did.
Good job, Cardinals. I think that if you're a Cardinal fan, you got to be feeling really good about Jeff Brom sticking around.
At number 34, Houston, up 11 spots with a big win against LSU in the Kinder's Texas Bowl.
I mean, this is a Houston team that had a semi-realistic shot at the playoffs as recently as November. Willie Fritz is doing really cool things in Houston.
At number 33, up 16 spots, Illinois does the unthinkable and beats Tennessee. Tennessee had beat every team they were ranked ahead of all year in the S&D 50. The trend ended in that Music City Bowl. I like what Brett Bielema is building in Champaign.
And rumor has it he wanted to be in Champaign more than State College.
At 32, down 6 spots, Jacob, your New Mexico Lobos take a overtime loss to Minnesota and narrowly miss that elusive 10-win season.
They did. They took a short-term loss, but they took a long-term victory by keeping Jason Eck in this coaching cycle that has just run through so many different schools and left so many schools reeling. New Mexico keeps their man for at least one more year. So Lobos, book it, Mountain West Conference champs next year.
I hope they keep the turquoise uniforms permanently. At 31, up 15 spots, NC State ends the year clobbering Memphis 31-7. Now Memphis was missing their head coach, who was hired elsewhere, but still, great win for the Wolfpack.
Great win for the Wolfpack. Looks like Charles Huff has his work cut out for him taking over Memphis after they get clobbered. But I believe Memphis has upgraded with Huff. NC State, stability. Their head coach gets retained for his 14th, 15th season. I can't even count how many seasons he's been there. And they look to hopefully move that into maybe a conference championship appearance next year.
Number 30, a team the three of us love, Western Michigan. They end the season 10-4. They retain their quarterback, their coach, and they dominate Kennesaw State 41-6 to end the year. We are so sorry the Fightin' Planks did not make the Final 50.
And this game takes home the prize for me as the blink and you miss it game of the season. We'll have to
least competitive bowl game, least competitive postseason game for the entire postseason.
I mean,
by competitive rating.
It's almost like a core memory at this point for me that I was like at work, had a gap. I was like, oh, I'll take lunch. I'll put on the bowl game. It starts in 1 minute. By the time I had heated up my lunch and sat down, Western Michigan was winning 14-0.
MAC champions. And Andrew, like you said, this offseason has been key about retainment. And Western Michigan, it is shocking how they've retained a lot of their big contributors from this year. They're bringing back that does not happen in the G5. The college football playoff world needs to be put on notice right now. Western Michigan going to be your favorites to land that G5 spot next year.
Ooh, that's a take. I like it.
I love it. I don't even think that's that spicy. I think that's pretty reasonable. At number 29, Washington, up 13 spots. They dominate Boise State, knock Boise State out of the 50. Quarterback drama. I'm sure you've seen it. The quarterback of Washington
Damon Williams
said he would stay at Washington. Then he said he was going to go in the transfer portal, and now he's back at Washington. So we will see how Washington does next year. But for this season, Washington, I think, had a very good year at 29.
Sometimes you don't need to find out if the grass is greener somewhere else. Just make it as green as you can where you are.
And grass grows pretty well in Seattle, I'm guessing.
It's got the rain for it.
At 28, Penn State finishes the season with a win against Clemson in the Pinstripe Bowl. It was freezing cold. Interim coach stays on the staff with Matt Campbell. Penn State also very dangerous 7-6 team.
And I think this might come as a shock to people if you stopped following Penn State after they lost to Oregon. We're celebrating new national champion right now. Well, that national champion's closest game was Penn State.
Have you guys ever wondered or wanted to like take a team from the Big Ten and if you put them in the SEC, how'd they do? Or Big 12, put them in the Big 10? Well, we're about to find out as Penn State takes Iowa State's head coach Matt Campbell and 17. Last I saw, the number was 17 Iowa State players. So we're about to see what that 8-4 Iowa State team did in the Big 12 and how that will compare to transferring over to Big 10 play.
I would like to coin the phrase now, Nittany Cyclones for next season. At 27, up 7 spots. Virginia, they finished the year 11-3. Win against Missouri was mighty impressive. I didn't think it would happen.
This is a Virginia team walking away from one of the most upsetting results. I mean, they had the playoffs in their sights. Took it to overtime, couldn't finish against Duke. This had to have felt like a consolation prize more than anyone else out there. And they came out and played.
At number 26, down 10 spots. Vanderbilt gets worked by Iowa, but overall, Vanderbilt has a great season.
Curious to see if Clark Lee can put together the string of successes without Diego Pavia.
And I think Pavia had a quote previously that was talking about how the SEC was tougher than the Big Ten, and he specifically said you only have to score 7 points against Iowa to beat them.
Aged like
rancid milk.
At number 25, looky, SMU up 19 spots. SMU beat the national runner-ups this year in overtime, and they end the year at number 25.
This is just one of many strong results for the ACC in bowl season, where you had an 8-4 SMU team beat a 9-3 Arizona team that itself had a shot at the Big 12 title. And as you mentioned, this is one of Miami's only losses of the year.
SMU did lose their offensive coordinator to Missouri State, though, so big hit there. We'll see how they rebound this year.
Big pickup for Missouri State, though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. At number 24, down 7 spots, USC. They end the year 9-4. That loss to TCU was gutting in overtime in the Alamo Bowl. But I do think Lincoln Riley did make some progress this year at USC.
And he's got, the number 1 recruiting class for next year? I don't know how much that matters in the portal era, but it seems important.
At number 23, Michigan. Down 4 spots to end the year. They lose to Texas in a deceivingly close game. But the biggest change this year was the addition of Kyle Whittingham. And who, Jacob?
The best defensive coordinator in all college football, Jay Hill. They basically took Utah's 3 best players and then their top recruit.
And for Michigan fans or Big Ten fans, these weren't just their best players. These were all-American caliber players.
At number 22, down 4 spots, Tulane. They get dominated by Ole Miss, but winning the American was quite the accomplishment in a very competitive American conference this year.
And it looks like their quarterback, Jake Retzlaff's back.
Tulane will be without their head coach, John Summerall, who now goes to Florida.
Yeah, a questionable coaching hire in Will Hall. They promoted, I think he was the passing game coordinator there at Tulane this year. He had only been there this year because the previous year he was the head coach of Southern Miss, who went 1-11 and didn't even beat an FBS team that year. So I hope he learned his lessons at Southern Miss, and maybe he thinks it was a resource issue. I don't know, but this will be an interesting ride to see how it goes for Tulane promoting Will Hall to their head coach.
So if you're a Green Wave fan, enjoy this season. Remember it. Cherish it.
I don't have a lot of hope, but I could be wrong.
Keep that merch.
At number 21, up 11 spots. Holy moly. Old Dominion. The Monarchs finished 10-3. They beat South Florida. They do lose their quarterback, but what a year for Old Dominion.
Yeah, and I'll never forget, this is the Old Dominion team that at the start of the year, people looked at Indiana and they looked at that game against Old Dominion and they're like, this Indiana team, they're only beating them by 13 points was that loss? Well, it turns out that 13-point loss was something like their fourth or fifth closest game of the year. Old Dominion played Indiana on the road closer than either Alabama or Oregon did in the playoffs.
At number 20, North Texas. Up 3 spots. What a New Mexico Bowl against San Diego State. Score was 49-47. Fireworks everywhere. More offense than any other game this postseason. The Mean Green turn into the Mean Cowboys because North Texas loses their coach and many players to Oklahoma State,
including Drew Mestemaker. Excited as we transition out of this season and into the next. We're going to talk through how we account for transfers in our model, how we account for portal moves and recruits. You'll see a lot of credit for what Drew Mestemaker and co have done at North Texas added to the preseason rating for Oklahoma State.
So we have the Nittany Cyclones, the Green Gators, and the Mean Cowboys for next year.
We've also got the Nittany Hokies.
That's true. At number 19, up 10 spots. No way. Duke finishes at number 19, 9-5 people. And shout out to Lucas for reminding us all that Duke is not the first FBS team to go 9-5. Miami of Ohio was the second team to go 9-5 in a season. Duke finishes the year on a high against Arizona State, and then promptly Darian Mensah, their quarterback, enters the transfer portal.
I wouldn't say promptly, but last minute.
It was like the opposite of promptly.
Literally like the last couple hours of the portal he entered.
Just so wild. What a weird thing. I actually appreciate that Duke is trolling him now that he's gone. I don't know if you've seen some of those posts, but I think they're pretty funny.
Mensah knows how to burn bridges with Tulane and then headed back to Tulane. Wait, we need to know. Does Miami travel to Duke this next year?
The game has not been scheduled, but they play at Miami in 2026.
Miami better be on upset alert when they play Duke. I'll just tell you that much.
It is the sleepy teams they lose to, so there you go. Definitely could be.
That's true.
At number 18, TCU. They never left the 50 this year.
Yeah, they got to number 50, right?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they bottomed out at 50 and they rebound up to 18. And I think a lot of people are upset with Sonny Dykes, and there's this sentiment that I've heard around that, oh, what TCU's fallen off, and Josh Hoover, their quarterback, now goes to Indiana for next season. What's going on at TCU? But finishing at 18 is quite an accomplishment when we have just reviewed all the teams below them.
Yeah, and I think it's quite the accomplishment to never fall out of the 50. We've seen some good teams fall out of the 50 and then come back in. Like TCU had a solid season.
At number 17, that's right. Wipe your glasses off, rub your eyes. Oklahoma finishes the year at number 17, down 6 spots. They're eliminated in the first round against Alabama. This was a team we weren't sure was good enough to be in the playoff, but a 10-3 season was way better than we thought they were going to be this year. John Mateer comes back for 2026. We will see if a healed hand does wonders for next year.
It's funny that now after the fact, people are saying, should they have been in the playoffs? Were they really good enough to be in the playoffs? If you've been paying attention to the SND, and we were the only ones saying pre-playoffs, Oklahoma was extremely overranked, overhyped, and if any team shouldn't be in, it wasn't Notre Dame, it wasn't Miami, it wasn't BYU, it was the Sooners who shouldn't have been in.
At number 16, up 8 spots. We said it all season. Iowa is a very dangerous team. They finished the year at 16. We all feel vindicated. The model proves it so. What a win against Vanderbilt to cap it all off. And if just a couple bounces go the Hawkeyes' way, this 9-4 very well is in the double digits and maybe in the playoff.
They just couldn't quite string together enough to make their own run.
At number 15, down 1 spot, James Madison. The ride ended in Eugene for the Dukes, but James Madison had one heck of a year and a college football playoff appearance to show for it.
Hey, only down 105 points. Everyone's mocking them because of that Oregon game, but didn't they win the second half?
It's worth noting that our model acknowledges when there's a gap between teams when the game starts. And so if you're already 400, 500 points behind your opponent, you're not going to be punished as bad as if you're, say, only 100 points or dead even. So this loss affected James Madison way less than, say, Alabama or Oregon's loss to Indiana.
But hey, you got an experienced Sun Belt coach coming in to replace Bob Chesney. You got Billy Napier. He's finally been freed from that jail in Gainesville.
Sunbelt Billy, here we come.
Sun Belt Billy is coming for the crown again.
He's coming back. Coming back to the old Sunbelt. At number 14, Jacob, I can see the smile and I can't even see your face. Navy at 14, up 6 spots. The midshipmen finished the year 11-2, snubbed of an American title conference appearance, but they took out their vengeance on Army and then Cincinnati.
We were snubbed of seeing a Armed Force Academy in the playoffs because I ain't convinced that North Texas or Tulane, either one of them would have beat Navy in the American Championship game had they given them a spot in there.
At number 13, up 2 spots, Alabama. Now, if you're an Alabama fan, this season does not meet the standard. But when we were putting this together, look at that record. Alabama played 15 games, an SEC title game appearance, a first-round playoff win, and a second-round playoff loss to the national champion. Granted, they were dominated, but they made it to the second round. 15 games this year for Kalen DeBoer. I think Crimson Tide fans should be pretty happy with this year.
Is this the first ever 11-4 team?
Lucas, please do some research. Let us know if Alabama's the first Division I 11-4 team. At number 12, BYU. 12-2 to end the year. It got hairy in that Pop-Tarts Bowl, playing down to Georgia Tech's level, but BYU gets it done in a 12-win season for the Cougars.
So it's a win-win for BYU and Georgia Tech. They both gain points. I feel like it's a Michael Scott situation here. Win, win, win.
One of them got most of its points for actually winning the game, and the other got most of its points for leading for most of the game. And had Georgia Tech won, you'd probably be down 200, up 200. It's very different. BYU didn't get a lot of points because they beat someone they should have beat. Georgia Tech didn't lose points because they played really well against someone the model saw as way better.
At number 11, Utah. They finish 11-2. They dominate Nebraska, and now they have to start from scratch.
Yeah, I'm curious to see between Utah hiring Morgan Scalley, Ole Miss hiring Pete Golding, how the in-house hires at these playoff caliber programs do compared to the outside hires this coming season. I think it'll be a really interesting dynamic. Like, do they preserve the culture? Do they try and start their own thing? What does that look like?
Finishing at 11 is an amazing accomplishment for Kyle Whittingham and the Utah Utes. That should not be understated here. At number 10, down 1 spot, Texas A&M loses 2 games this year, and they happen to be the last 2 they played. Texas and then Miami at home. That game was the most competitive playoff game this postseason. Texas A&M just narrowly missed having such a good season.
Model basically left them right where they were at. They said this team is as good as they are. What you see is what you get.
Good as advertised.
Had they lost to South Carolina, would they have been left out of the playoffs?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can.
Because if you lose to South Carolina at that point in the season, you're out of the field. or at the very least, you're at the bottom of the field, and then you lose to Texas to end the year. You're a 2-loss team that already was down at like 10, give or take. You're out of the field.
Where did South Carolina end the year, Spencer?
In the S&P 50, South Carolina ended the year ranked 62nd. That puts them right in between Nebraska and UConn.
Yeah, that had knocked him out of the field, Jacob. At number 9, down 6 spots, Texas Tech. There were such high hopes from all three of us that the Big 12 representative would make some noise in the playoff. That did not happen with a shutout loss against Oregon.
You can't win without an offense.
Can't win without a QB.
And Texas Tech has now paid $5 million for Cincinnati's quarterback. They are going to do their best to not let that happen again.
Which one? Not having a QB or paying $5 million?
They'll pay $5 million again. It's about not having a QB.
They'll do it every year if they need to.
But an amazing year for Texas Tech. They win the Big 12 for the first time. A lot of good things to come.
Crazy that that's their first time winning.
Yeah, they're an
Big 12.
inaugural member.
At number 8, down 3 spots, Notre Dame. Had they not opted out of their bowl game, where could they have been, Spencer?
Honestly, just between the three of us and anyone listening, they might have finished number 2, even without a playoff appearance. They
Holy shnikes.
They were so highly rated. They played so well. They would have had a marquee matchup against BYU in the People's Championship. Whether they win or destroy them, I think that puts Notre Dame at the very least top 4 to end the year.
Yeesh.
Possibly as high as number 2.
We were denied seeing them dominate someone. But hey, Marcus Freeman was there on the set of College Game Day tonight, ready to make some picks.
What was that?
I mean, Pat McAfee called that out, if you saw, when he said, Pete Pavakwa is going to put Notre Dame head coach on College Game Day set, and Marcus Freeman's just blushing his face off. Truth was told. Pat McAfee told us what happened. But hey, people have been mocking the athletic director of Notre Dame, Pete Bavakwa. Fun last name to say. But he might have been right that Notre Dame might have had a historic 10-game run, the likes of which the school hadn't seen, because the S&P 50 thoroughly agrees.
I mean, the likes of which they hadn't seen since last year. I mean, it's just Notre Dame's MO at this point.
At number 7, up a spot, let's talk about a playoff snub. The Texas Longhorns finished 10-3. Arch Manning gets it done against Michigan in the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. Let that sink in. Someone needs to fix that sponsorship deal next year. But Texas, hey, next year they get Ohio State early. This might be an opportunity for Arch to make it right. But this year's Texas team, better than people will remember.
If you want to tick off 90% of the college football world, just show them this graphic of Texas ranked 7 and Notre Dame ranked 8.
At number 6, oh no, Ohio State. So much dominance all regular season, and they finished the year at number 6 due to 2 losses. One to the national champion, Indiana, in the Big Ten title game, and the other to Miami in the Cotton Bowl in the CFP quarterfinals. And they didn't look competent on offense in either one of those games.
I feel like we talked up Julian Sands so much all year, but under the limelight, he just could not play.
But he has beaten Michigan, so that's a big deal for Buckeye fans. So he's got the one. Now he's got to figure out the other big game. Ohio State gets Jeremiah Smith back next year. There's no reason you can't ascend to the highest heights with him on your squad.
No, my only question is, does the Big Ten just rotate national champions at this point? Like, are we going to get a 4th one? Is it Iowa's turn?
Washington with DeMont.
At number 5, down 3 spots, Georgia. They finished the year 12-2, a thriller in the Sugar Bowl against Ole Miss. Gunnar Stockton dominates this year. He's back next year. Georgia has a lot to look forward to next season. And they're SEC champions.
We got a lot of flack for not having Georgia higher at various points in the year. They beat Ole Miss, and we still had them rated below Ole Miss. Well, the two of them just ended up staying neck and neck like the whole season.
And guess who ended up 1 spot higher to end the season? Take that, haters. Ole Miss finishes in the final S&D 50 at number 4. 1 spot ahead of Georgia. And how many rating points ahead of Georgia, Spencer?
7.
7 in a rating scale in the 6,000s. These teams are dang near the same, but Ole Miss finishes ahead of Georgia. At number 3, holy moly, Oregon finishes the year at number 3. Their 2 losses to the best team.
Oregon hasn't lost to anyone but a national championship participant since 2022. Just wild. This is the next Big Ten team up in the rotation.
So the Fightin' Dan Lannings are just one tier below national title game.
At number 2, up 11 spots, Miami. They finished the year at number 2. I will eat crow right here, Miami fans. I was wrong about this team. I thought Notre Dame was better. We'll never know because it didn't get to be played again. But for this year, 2025, Miami is unquestionably the number 2 team in America.
Can you imagine if Notre Dame had gotten into the playoffs and we had that as a semifinal rematch? We got robbed. America got robbed. Pete Bavacqua is not wrong about that.
Jacob, it's your turn to eat crow.
I'm just glad to see that in the end, the laws of physics worked out and the team that didn't deserve to be in the playoffs did not win the Natty.
That's not eating crow exactly, but you're right. Indiana, they finished the year number 1. They do not change position because they finished the regular season at number 1. The S&D 50 had it right. The national champion, best team out there is Indiana. And it's not particularly close. Spencer, rating gap, please, between Indiana and anyone below them.
Indiana finished with a rating gap of 452 points between them and Miami at number 2. To get another 452 points from Miami, you would have to go all the way to about number 15 or so. The gap between Indiana and Miami is comparable to the gap between Miami and BYU.
Let's talk about that national championship game in the scope of the last 10 national championships. This game is the 3rd most competitive national championship in the last 10 years. And Indiana finishes the year 16-0. Why was this game so competitive? How did Miami hang in it so long?
It's about weapons on offense and defense for Miami. No disrespect to anyone else on that team, but with Malachi Toney on offense and Desmond Bain on defense, you have just these 2 players who can really control the dynamic on the field in a way that almost no one else in the country can do. And to have that on both sides of the ball, I think is what set Miami apart. It's what made this game so difficult. Otherwise, Indiana would have run away with this. And to be fair, Indiana did control this game, but Miami kept it close. And that's something that not a lot of teams can say against Curt Cignetti's fighting Hoosiers.
You know, I was just wondering, is this game as close as it is if it's played in, let's say, the Cotton Bowl or the Rose Bowl or even the Peach Bowl?
Or literally anywhere except a true road game?
Yeah.
Yeah, so true.
Talk about, we made fun of Missouri all year long for not leaving their home stadium much. Miami was about just as bad, and it's ironic that they get to play the national title at their home too. Miami's pass rush was just, you could see it really putting a strain on Mendoza and that offensive line and the whole Indiana offense. They struggled to get into that rhythm that allowed them to just blow teams out in the past because that pass rush just kept blowing up that line and getting to Mendoza and making him uncomfortable.
When Fernando Mendoza had that 4th and 5 QB sneak, Ben, shout out to Ben, usually on the show, said in the group chat, Sig is a psycho. And I responded with, Sig and Fernando are both psychos. The guts to go for it on that 4th and 5. And then if you guys heard in Curt Cignetti's post-game interview, he said they specifically put in that QB sneak play for this game for that defensive alignment, and they gambled and they said, Miami was in that alignment on 3rd down. We think they're going to be in on it again on 4th down. They designed that play for that moment. It wins them a national championship. The guts to go for the jugular. I cannot give the Hoosiers enough credit. They did that against Ohio State. when they went for it on fourth down in the Big Ten title game. They get it. They do it here with Miami. I just love when coaches go for the win and you don't play to not lose. And the last question on this list, where does Indiana rank in your mind with all of these national title winners?
I would put them, out of the last 10 national championship teams, I'd put them 2 or 3. I think LSU is the best we've seen in the last 10 years. That Joe Burrow-led team in 2019. I think this is a very close team, though.
LSU 2019, number 1. Michigan 2023, number 2. Georgia 2022, number 3. Indiana 2025, number 4.
That's my exact list, Jacob. I am 100% in lockstep with you. Holy moly. Postseason conference clashes. These are conferences that played more than 2 games against each other. The Big Ten comes out the victor with tonight's win against Miami.
Yeah, they only had one conference clash that they lost, and that was going 2-1 against the Big 12.
And in the postseason conference index, the Big Ten finishes 11-5 and prevents the ACC from overtaking them with a national championship victory.
But the ACC is the real winner of bowl season here. I mean, on the shoulders of Miami for sure, but
No
we
doubt.
were down on the ACC. The media was down on the ACC. I mean, Miami was only ranked as high as they were because I feel like someone in the committee started feeling bad that everyone was hating on the ACC so much. Well, turns out that the ACC didn't deserve any of that hate.
Spencer, it's bowl games. Come on. We cannot.
Wow.
They
Look
had
at
a
this.
terror.
This is
Look
the
at the-
postseason
look at-
conference index. We're going to get to the regular season conference index, Jacob. Just you wait.
They don't deserve the hate in meaningless bowl games. You're right, Spencer.
Let's take it to the 2025 final conference index. And in Jacob's opinion, he is correct here. The ACC finishes at number 4. SEC reigns supreme with a sizable lead at 1. Big Ten 2, Big 12 3, American at 5, Sun Belt ahead of the Mountain West at 6, Conference USA ahead of the MAC at 8.
See, look at this, Spencer. Sunbelt decisively ahead of CUSA in the average rating. What is that, like 250 points? And we saw CUSA go 4-1 against the Sunbelt.
There's some matchup math in there, too. If you're matching up the top of the CUSA against the middle of the Sun Belt.
Now, the Sunbelt's just the mini SEC, and all their players were opting out to go join the SEC.
In light of playoff expansion, I think this conference index is mighty helpful. The SEC had 9 teams in the final 50. The Big Ten had 11 teams in the final 50. Big 12, 9. ACC, 10. American, 5. That rounds out your top 5 conferences. For each of you, how many bids would you give each of these leagues based on this season's conference index?
In a 16, I would say each of the P4 deserve 2 bids, at least.
Agreed. I think if you make your conference championship game, you get an auto bid in the P4.
I liked this exercise this year. We tracked this all season. What we did learn is that the SEC is reigning supreme. We then learned that the Big 10 and Big 12 are not that different, full conferences considered.
Now, something I'll say, though, is you got to keep in mind, this is average rating. So we're going to go to quads here in a second. But I want to call out something here. There are 4 ACC teams, 2 Big 10 teams, and 2 Big 12 teams rated lower than the lowest rated SEC team in Arkansas. Arkansas is 94th right now. Below them from the other 3, you've got North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Colorado, Purdue, Boston College, Maryland, Syracuse, and Oklahoma State. So when we talk about averages, it's the fact that there are true cellar dwellers in the other 3 conferences, and the SEC is not affected by it. The SEC finished the year with only 2 teams outside of the top 75.
Let's take a look at these quads then. Here are the 2025 final conference quads. Take the 4 best teams in each conference, stack them up by average rating, put out the top 10. Here you go. Number 1, Big 10A. Number 2, SEC A. Number 3, Big 12 A group. Number 4, ACC A group. Number 5, SEC B group. Number 6, American A group. number 7, Big Ten B group, number 8, Sun Belt A, number 9, ACC B, and number 10, Big 12 B.
You want to know which of these groups made their first appearance on this list?
ACCB.
The ACC-B group, because of a strong bowl season from the ACC. And the
Good for them.
ACC-A got to the 4th spot for the first time all year as well, thanks to Miami.
What a great postseason.
The cynicism is thick. I can taste it from here.
But this is what we learned when looking at the top 4 teams in each conference alone. The Big Ten is king.
The Big Ten is absolutely loaded. Iowa, the 4th highest rated Big Ten team, though. I love that.
That's Iowa reigns supreme.
That is hot. That is a hot take. What's even spicier, the Big 12A group better than the ACCA group. I mean, if you are in national championship recap mode, this has got to feel crazy to hear that those 4 are better than those 4.
I think if you made a playoff out of that right there, and you swap them, so you do Texas Tech hosts Virginia, Utah hosts SMU, Duke hosts BYU, and Miami hosts TCU. That's your first round. I think the Big 12 wins 3 of those 4 games.
It's valid. It shows how good Miami is. And Miami probably wins that playoff. Because
probably.
They have a pass rush.
Yep. And a quarterback.
And a better quarterback. Yeah, it's important.
And Malachi Tony. That guy's a Heisman winner waiting to happen. I cannot hype him up enough.
In the Big Ten A group, you have Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State, Iowa. Indiana beat all 3 teams in the top tier group. Not only are they with them, they beat all 3 of those.
And Oregon twice. Yeah, that's impressive. Shout out Sun Belt A group for finishing number 8 up a spot. That's quite the accomplishment when you look at the company that grouping is in. The 2025 final S&D group of 5 top 25.
What a way to end the show, too. What a good list.
And just to run through the top 10 real quick. Navy at 1, James Madison at 2, North Texas 3, Old Dominion 4, Tulane 5, Western Michigan 6, New Mexico 7, South Florida number 8, UTSA at number 9, Washington State at 10. Honorable mentions, East Carolina at 11, Ohio at 12, Army at 15. How about that? And Arkansas State at 23.
And the playoff committee's second darling, because their first was South Florida. When they lost, they replaced them with Memphis, coming in as the 25th best resume in the G5.
Where does Memphis land, Spencer, in the final S&D ratings 1 through 136?
Memphis ends at number 72.
Gee wee. Got to go way low to get that final 25th spot in the G5.
Arkansas, that's the head coach you just hired. Yikes.
Yeah, 72. That's sandwiched right between Kentucky and Baylor.
Hey, nice.
So, Arkansas, you're going to be more like Kentucky next year, I guess.
That's a step up, I guess.
It's tough living in the SEC. It is tough. If you're interested in all rankings 1 through 136, check us out on Patreon. We post 1 through 136 on there. Subscribe for $1 a month. You get all of the rankings for the entire season, 1 through 136. And coming this offseason, preseason rankings where we will take into account every portal transfer.
Yeah, we want to make sure our patrons get a little bit more than those who just subscribe. And to all of you listening, subscribe on YouTube, where in the season we'll give the 50 and patrons get the 136. We'll actually do a 136 breakdown in the off season. Patrons, you'll get a little bit of a peek behind the curtain for how we're accounting for transfers and what that looks like in terms of transfer movement.
And to conclude our show, it wouldn't be right if we didn't reveal the winner of the S&D Bowl Challenge. Nathan, number 1, you are the champion with 34 points. You have been sent to your Amazon $50 gift card. Thank you to all 41 people who entered our challenge. We appreciate all of you. We will do this again next year. I take champion spot over you two, which feels amazing. Jacob takes second place, and Spencer, you missed second place by 1 point.
Which just feels even worse because Jacob doesn't even care about bowl season.
Nope, he doesn't.
Boo hoo hoo, woo woo woo. Jacob doesn't care about postseason. Jacob pits Central Michigan to beat Northwestern, and he still finishes in front of me.
Well, you heard it here first. Jacob picked Central Michigan.
If you made it this far in the show, you're a sicko. We love you. Thank you for being here. When we started this channel at the beginning of the season, we meant it when we said we would be shocked if one person listened to this. Our pods have reached well over 11,500 views this year. Thank you for sharing it with your friends. Thank you for listening. We cannot express our appreciation enough for your support.
Next week's show is going to be a season review show, so come hungry for some of the data behind an entire season for teams across the S&D 50 and all the way through the 136. So it's going to be a fun show to break down the season. After that, though, we are going to take a short break before coming back with transfer portal review, impact from that, and taking a way too early look at next season.
Next week's episode, season in review, will be available Wednesday, January 28th. Spencer, thank you for being here.
My pleasure. This is so great to be able to look at the numbers and the data to come to a decision. It's just everything about this is so fun. I love it. I love recording it with you guys. It's fun putting the graphics together. Everything about this is great.
We love you. Jacob, we love you too. Thanks for being here.
I love being here. Last week after we hung up, I promptly went to the toilet and threw up.
Violently ill for days.
This week I'm feeling much better.
We're so happy you're healthy and feeling well. Thank you for everything you've given us this season. You've made us laugh. You have educated us all. And my father-in-law told me today that the D3 playoffs were more exciting than the CFP games. And that is just a sign, because he is an avid listener of this show, of how great it can be when you let the games tell you what to watch and not just the names on the front of the jersey. We love you all. We hope you have an amazing week. Thanks for riding with us this season. There is much more to come. Have a fantastic day.
Bye.
That North Dakota State transfer linebacker to Michigan is a big one. Old Jay Hill's getting some ballers in.